I have to say, when the government was first talking about this, and they were talking about merely extending the present level of lockdown for somewhat longer in Leicester, I have to say, I was saying, well, why would you do that? Because, if the virus is spreading in Leicester under the present level of restriction, why would you expect it suddenly to stop if you just continued it for a couple of weeks? I was very pleased that they actually recognised that that wasn't going to be adequate, that if there were issues here in Leicester, they needed to require some dramatic intervention and not a continuation of the status quo. What we got from the Secretary of State last night was, I think, more wide-ranging than we'd anticipated. And I'm really grateful for that, because while it is a pain for us and a nuisance for us in the city to be subject to that level of restriction and to have the clock, as it were, turned back in the development of the virus, it is nonetheless something that has some realistic prospect of being effective. And certainly for us now, being effective is what this is all about. I'm very, very concerned, obviously, about the impact on the well-being of the city in general and the health of the people in the city, but also about the economy of the city. And one of the things we've been stressing to the government over recent times is that if Leicester is to be locked down and its economy put on in limbo for a little longer, we will need the support that was given earlier in the pandemic throughout the UK, restored here in Leicester and maintained here in Leicester, so that our economy doesn't suffer from what is happening to the health of our people.
Epidemiology runs on the fact of knowing who your target is, and we need that information. Now, the crucial bit of information is, where are they? I get that, and I'm really glad that we've got that. So I don't want to say that we haven't got anything. I'm delighted that we've now got that data that we didn't have before. But actually, when you particularly start to think about communities in a place like Leicester, that information is absolutely key for us, because it tells us where to go, not about what's happening now, but what could happen next. And yes, I would absolutely make that plea for additional information. It's not a nice to have, it's something that just helps us with our response. Well, I can only go on what the Secretary of State has said, and he's laid that out very clearly in terms of what we can and what we can't do. From a public health point of view, where I stand in Leicester at the moment, I am really pushing the emphasis of keep your contact to an absolute minimum. I just think that that's where we've got to be. I think one of the things where we've probably struggled is around communication. I think once the communications got more complicated that were coming, whether we were staying at home and then we were staying alert, I think that was quite difficult. And particularly when you start to have those messages for a community like Leicester, where some of that nuance can be lost, I think that is key. So for me, my recommendation is, if you don't have to, don't, and get back to those very, very simple messages that we had at the beginning.
Actually, North Evington isn't a geographic area. It isn't a neighbourhood. It isn't a community. North Evington is a council ward. It's drawn for only that purpose, for electing people to the council. It has within it a number of different neighbourhoods and a multiplicity of different communities. I mean, you'll know it quite well. It goes from St Saviour's Road, way across the Northfields estate. Very, very different areas. It goes up to Crown Hills, right down into the heart of Highfields. It's a number of different communities, and that's what we've wanted to know. Is not what the situation is in Leicester, not even what the situation is in North Evington, but what the situation is in communities, in neighbourhoods and in streets. And that's what we've not been able to get to. The statistics that the government has now produced would suggest that there are particular issues here in Leicester. But I think they have said, and I think it's readily acknowledged, that there are other parts of the country that may also be causing concern. In a sense, if we are being used as a guinea pig, I'm quite happy for that to be the case, because actually I'd rather this happen now than it happens in 3-4 weeks' time, when actually we've unlocked, and then you have to, turn back get some more notches. We can turn back some notches now, and hopefully get on top of this very quickly, and then move on.